Today I'm behind the wheel of a brand new 2021 BMW X5. Now when the X5 debuted 22 years ago, back in 1999, many thought it was the best luxury SUV. Fast forward 22 years later, many still feel this X5 is the best luxury SUV. Now for 2021, there is one major addition, but there's also a few subtractions. So if you're interested, let's get started. Let me show you around. Before I get started, I want to thank Laurel BMW of Westmont. They made this video possible. So if you're in the market for a used or used BMW, please check them out. Their information is on the screen and in the description of this video. The exterior of the X5 has an athletic and handsome look that is undeniably BMW. The kidney grills up front has been getting bigger and bigger with every generation, and the current ones don't disappoint with their massive size. The adaptive full LED headlights are stylish with the half octagon shaped daytime running lights that really stand out. Auto high beam is standard and so are LED fog lights. The lower bumper has a unique design with some satin aluminum trim pieces that match the rest of the X5. The side reveals a good looking profile. Nice lines with satin aluminum roof rails and window surrounds. There's also aluminum strip underneath the doors and a little slit behind the front wheels for show. There is some black cladding around the bottom and around the wheel fenders, but they're hidden quite well. The wheels are 19-inch, they have a good design, but they look a little bit small on this big SUV. The back end is squared off with distinctive smoked LED taillights. The lower chrome finishers, as well as the silver bumper guard, also pops out, giving the X5 a sporty vibe. The tailgate in the back is a clamshell design. The power liftgate button opens up the top portion, and to open the bottom portion, you'll have to manually do that by pressing a button. However, when closing, they both close by themselves. The trunk is spacious with a 12V outlet on the right side. Underneath the bottom cover, there is some hidden storage. There is also a privacy cover on top and levers to fold down the second row. Once folded, the seats are flat, which makes loading larger items a breeze. Moving to the second row, there's plenty of space for adults. I'm 5'10" and I still have about 45 inches of legroom behind my driving position and about the same with headroom. Unfortunately, the second row cannot be adjusted unless you opt for the third row package, which also adds on the air suspension, and that comes in at $2,300. There are two sets of car seat latches, and passenger gets 4 vents in total, 2 USB ports, dual climate control that's optional, and a 12V outlet. There are also 2 cup holders. Moving towards the front, the X5 provides sophisticated and stylish cabin with controls that are pretty easy to figure out. The steering wheel has a modern look, a good thickness, and the buttons on the right control media, volume, voice, phone control, and buttons on the left control cruise control. Adaptive cruise control is part of a package that's not standard. Heated steering wheel button is below, and you have paddle shifters behind. The steering wheel adjustments are powered. The 12.3-inch digital cluster is part of the live Cockpit Pro that you get on this X5. The interface is pleasing to look at, and the tachometer, speedometer, as well as the gauges are displayed brightly. Maps is also displayed in the middle, and you can scroll through various information like your trip computer, your power, G-meter, music, and modes on the right side. There are light controls on the left of the steering wheel, and on the door panel there's a button to control the power liftgate, 2 memory seat settings, and a button for your power folding mirrors. The infotainment screen is 12.3 inches as well. It's big, bright, responsive, and the home screen has widgets that's completely configurable. The screen is touch, so going through media, communication, navigation, and other menus is easily done, but there is also a large knob and button setup on the center console that can control the menus easily and quickly. The biggest addition for this 2021 model is Android Auto, as well as Sirius XM radio. This is in addition to Apple CarPlay and Wi-Fi. There are many features you could configure, including, for example, when to turn on your heated seats and steering wheel. Very cool. This X5 is equipped with active driving assistance, which comes with forward collision mitigation and warning, lane departure warning with steering intervention, active blind spot detection, and rear cross traffic alert. Underneath the infotainment screen, you have a small screen to display the temperature and buttons for climate control. This X5 is equipped with quad zones, which is part of the convenience package. There's a row of buttons for the heated seats, defroster settings, modes, and fan speed. Underneath that, you have a volume knob and a row of presets. On the center console, you have wireless charging, which is part of the convenience package, USB port, 2 cup holders, and a 12V outlet. The shifter, which works pretty much like a standard shifter, with one exception, there's a button for park. Not sure why it had to be a button. When you go into reverse, you get a good view of what's behind you. Also, a 360 view of sensors that's around your X5. Next to the shifter, you have buttons for traction control, parking sensors, your drive modes, which include Sport, Comfort, Eco, and there's an adaptive button where your X5 will learn how you drive. Also buttons for auto brake hold, parking, and hill descent. Inside the fancy armrest, you get a single USB port. You have HomeLink buttons under a rear view mirror, and lastly, a large panoramic sunroof on top. Alright, I'm off. Let's see how good this X5 is on the road and how it drives. The first thing I want to talk about are these seat belts. And I said the same thing when I reviewed the X3, because as soon as you drive, you'll hear this mechanical whine and then you'll feel your seatbelt tug. So it automatically retracts and just makes it really tight. And it's just something that you got to get used to. I'm still not used to it. I totally forgot about it until I started driving. It's a weird sensation, but it does make you feel like you're driving something special, and that's a good thing. Now, besides the impressive seatbelt, the drive itself is just as impressive, if not more. Wow, is it good. Let's start out with the suspension. Now, keep in mind, this X5 is not the advanced ones. This is the lowest trim. This is the xDrive 40i. It's not the M50i, nor is it the M, so it doesn't have a crazy sport suspension. It is very, very impressive. Around town, I feel like I'm on top of clouds. It's that comfortable. It's really, really comfortable. It's soaking up all the bumps beautifully. Only the very extreme ones, the big potholes, do I feel them, but otherwise, it's a very, very, very comfortable drive right now. Besides the suspension, the steering is also very nice. It has a good weight, doesn't feel very artificial, and it's precise. Slight play in the wheel, but that's it. There's not that much play, and right now I'm in comfort mode, so I'm going to test everything in Sport and Sport Plus in a little bit, but even in comfort mode, this feels good. And the steering wheel itself, I just want to mention that it also feels good. It's a little bit thicker than the one in the X3, so I like it. It feels better when you're gripping it, and it has more cushion, and just overall, it's nice. And what's also helping with this beautiful drive is the cabin noise in here, which is basically none. There's no cabin noise in here at all. It is so quiet in here. No road noise, no wind noise. It feels like I'm in a vacuum, like I don't hear anything. Only when cars are passing by really fast do I hear it, but outside of that, there's nothing. There's no sound at all in here. It's really, really impressive, and when you floor it, you hardly hear the engine at all. And this is with the radio off, by the way. What's also nice about this drive are the seats and my visibility and driving position. All very good. The seats are very, very comfortable. Unfortunately, real leather is an optional feature. So you get something called Sensatech, which is just a fancy word for leatherette. You really can't tell that it's not leather by looking at it. You can tell by feeling it, and you can tell by smelling it, because it just doesn't smell like leather. But according to BMW, it's more durable, more water resistant. You know, the dye on there is more longer lasting, so there are benefits to it. The cushion is really nice. The bolsters holding my back, but it's not uncomfortable. And just overall, the seat itself is just, it's like a sports seat, yet it's comfortable. So it's a weird combination, and I like it. I like it a lot. It adds to the drive. As for visibility and driving position, also good. Visibility, really good. Nice big windshield, big windows, big mirrors. Blind spot is average, but you have blind spot monitoring, so no problem. Rear window also good. With the headrest up, they block a little bit. Headrest down, you can see well back there. And driving position is also good because this is a mid-size SUV, so you're sitting high up off the ground, good commanding view. Now, what I haven't talked about that's also good is the throttle feeling, acceleration, and also the engine. Let's start out with the engine. This is the base engine. This is a 3-liter i6 twin turbo, and it's producing about 335 horsepower and about 330 pound-feet of torque. Honestly, in my opinion, I think this engine is very, very, very underrated because I have tested a Toyota Supra with the same exact engine, and many people don't like that, but man, that Supra was fast. It was way faster than it should have been due to the horsepower and torque. And that same engine in here, you know, you think on a big SUV like this can't be that powerful, can't be that good, but it is. 0 to 60 comes in at 5.3 seconds, and that's with the base engine. That's pretty darn quick. In a little bit, I'm going to test out acceleration, maybe going 20 to 60 and see how it is. But around town, no problems with acceleration at all. You put your foot down, and this X5 just propels forward. It's a really nice feeling. The engine is also very quiet. Due to how good this cabin insulation is, you really don't hear the engine, even when you're really putting your foot down. And also the throttle feel, very nice. It's a good linear feel. Now, as for the live Cockpit Pro, I've kind of discussed it and showcased a little bit already, but they work beautifully together. That is one of the great things about the X5 too. This digital gauge cluster, it's nice, it's bright, the interface looks good. I like the maps in the middle so you know where you're going, right? And it gives you useful information and you know, colorful graphics, things that just make you feel like this car is worth it. And same thing with this infotainment screen. This is just as large, 12 inches. On the X3, the infotainment screen is a little bit smaller, 10 inches. And I noticed the difference. It's 12 inch. It's nice. The iDrive 7, the software, very responsive. You know, you can configure it however you want, the widgets. It's touch, it's within your reach, it's not very far away. And also the dial, the rotary dial and the buttons just make it easy. It's a really good setup. However, with that said, do I like this, or let's say, do I like the infotainment system in the Volvo series better, right? Like the XC60 or XC90, because that is basically full touch. That's a hard one. Because this is more configurable and there's a lot more settings. But the Volvo one is just, I think it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier because it's all touch. So it's kind of a toss-up. It really depends on what you're looking for. Okay, so that was accelerating from about 20 to 60 miles per hour, and that was pretty good. I'm still in comfort mode. Like I said, 0 to 60 in here is 5.3 seconds. That's insane. And that felt lively. Still, not the quickest SUV I've tested, or the quickest car I've tested, but it's more than adequate for most people for passing, getting up to speed, for just joy rides. That's plenty quick. And I'm gonna try it again in Sport and Sport Plus, see if it makes a difference. But yeah, that was pretty good. Now, at this point, you may be thinking that I'm biased because I've been saying everything is good or great or fantastic. Are there any negatives? Anything bad about this X5? Well, the one thing that isn't as great as everything else I've mentioned is the brakes and how this X5 brakes. It behaves just like the X3. So as you're putting foot down, you're expecting the X5 to come to a stop, you know, pretty smoothly, right? And it does. There's just a little bit of waviness while you're trying to stop. So it's not bad. It's not bad. The brakes aren't bad. For most people, you're not even really going to notice it. But if I had to nitpick something bad is the brakes don't feel anywhere as good as the throttle or the suspension or everything else I've mentioned. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, in terms of there's a big addition and there's a few subtractions. The big addition, I've already covered it, is the addition of Android Auto. That's a big one. A lot of people have been waiting for it, so that's here, along with Apple CarPlay, and you get satellite radio, Sirius XM. That is also standard now. But there are a few optional things that was taken away. For example, a lot of people were excited about the off-road package, which added on a rear locking differential, air suspension. That has been removed, so you can't get that anymore on a 2021 X5. Also, the rear entertainment package with the 2 screens, that has also been removed. You can't get that anymore. If you're buying an X5 and you want the off-road package, you must get it because you want to go off-road with your X5. That unfortunately, you should look at a 2020 and not a 2021, right? And the same thing with the rear entertainment package. So for a car of this price range, I feel like there should be more standard features that are optional. For example, up front, there's no ventilated seats. So that's number one. In the back, there's no sunshades. That's another one. Also in the back, the seats don't recline. Now the set position isn't bad, but you know, I would prefer if you can recline or slide them forward and backwards, and you can't. This one is also configured with the convenient package, which is the lowest package you can get with the X5. And it adds on things like 4-way climate control, which really should be standard. Adds on wireless charging, which really should be standard. Remote start, which really should be standard. These are features that I feel like this car within this price range should have standard. They shouldn't be optional features, but unfortunately they are. And I've already mentioned this too. Leather, why is that an optional thing? That should be standard on this X5, but it's not. I just put this X5 in Sport Standard. There's Sport Plus, which is really aggressive. I'm just trying Sport Standard and see how it is. As soon as I pressed it, the throttle, or I should say the RPM, went up. So it definitely does hold the revs a little bit higher with every gear, but it is supposed to adjust basically everything, like your steering, your throttle, your acceleration, you know, the transmission. So we'll see how it is. So a couple times I noticed this X5 trying to steer for me. Part of steering intervention, which is part of the active driving assistant suite of safety features. And it's a little bit annoying because it intervenes very harshly. So it's not like a slow intervening, and it doesn't warn you. There's no bright lights or shakes or anything like that. It just takes over and it tries to like push you back into the lane. And for some of you guys, you're not gonna like that. It's actually like really stiff, and sometimes, you know, it just can't read the lines or something, and you don't want your X5 to just be swerving, right? So yeah, it's a little bit intrusive. As for all the other safety features, you get it all. Forward collision mitigation and warning, lane departure warning, active blind spot detection, rear cross traffic alert. You got parking sensors front and rear, so pretty much everything. You have cruise control, but unfortunately adaptive cruise control is again optional. So something else that many manufacturers are making, you know, standard and free, still optional with the X5. So I've been driving around in Sport for a while. Besides the revs being a little bit higher, I don't really notice much. The steering didn't get any heavier. Suspension didn't get any harsher. Not that I can notice around town. Maybe if you are tracking this X5, you'll notice it, but I don't feel any difference right now. So besides a little bit in the throttle, that's it. Next, let me talk about the trim levels and pricing and give you my final thoughts on this X5. As for trim levels, the 40i engine comes with S-Drive, which is only rear-wheel drive, and that starts under $60,000. For xDrive with all-wheel drive, it starts under $62,000. The one I'm driving today has a convenience package added for roughly $1,000. Next, there's a plug-in hybrid model, the xDrive 45e, and it starts at $65,400. You get about 30 miles of EV range, and you get better fuel economy than a 40i. For 2021, the 50i was removed, so if you wanted more power, you have to move up to the ridiculous 523 horsepower M50i, which starts under $83,000. And if you wanted more power, you can move up to the more ridiculous X5M with 600 horsepower, and that starts at $105,000. To conclude, the 2021 BMW X5 is a fantastic mid-sized luxury SUV, and you'll find very little competition that drives as well. The suspension is fantastic, and so is the steering and acceleration. The cabin is also spacious, comfortable, and very quiet. The only things holding back the X5 is the brake feel, the pricey optional features, and for 2021, the removal of a few packages some may be looking for. Overall, I'm giving the 2021 X5 a score of 104. To see where it ranks among its peers, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, hit the like and subscribe to the channel for more reviews, news, and first looks.